Yo, the very system they use to convince passport bros that it's a bad idea to bring their significant other into the United States just handed them the ultimate weapon. The passport bros just receive an insane advantage, which means they will win in every single dating market on the planet. For decades, you had to hide your foreign wife from the West, afraid she'd get infected by feminism the moment you brought her into America. Guys, most men don't understand what just happened. There was a huge policy update by Donald Trump, and it wasn't just about immigration. It was about leverage. Because for the first time in decades, the girl you bring back to the United States can't just flip the switch, get westernized, and walk off with half of your life. As of August 1st, 2025, she either plays her role or her ass gonna get deported. On August 1st, 2025, the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services dropped a quiet bomb. A new policy update now makes one thing clear. Marrying a U.S. citizen no longer guarantees permanent residency. Let me say that again. Marriage no longer means protection. That's the biggest buff passport bros have ever seen. But why is the big question everyone wants to know right now. And the answer? Before this, women could finesse the system. That's right, guys. Women were coming over here, exploiting us and bailing. They'd act submissive overseas, secure the ring, fly back to America, and flip the script. Once they got here, it wasn't long before they became westernized, filed for divorce, collected benefits, and there was nothing you can do about it. That game is over. The new rules demand evidence, interviews, proof, and they can deport her even after approval if they find anything off. If your relationship don't appear to be genuine and she over here changing up on you, causing stress in your life, you think that doesn't put pressure on her behavior? Think again, my friend.
Welcome back to the channel. You see the information on the screen, so you already know what I'm about. So let's get into it. So this particular video is from Darwin McPherson. All right, he's a guy. I actually did a video of his a while back, and I just had wanted to put a few comments on top of this to actually let's go in a little bit deeper. So one of the first things about the passport bros is, again, if you've been following my channel for a while, is I really don't have anything against passport bros. And I know some of the women that are watching, they might find that a little bit offensive, but the bottom line is I don't have a problem with passport gals. Wherever you go to find your person, that is up to you. Now, I could go in deeper, and maybe I will in a little bit later in this particular video, but I want to talk directly to what he is saying. So the first thing people need to understand is get your politics out of the way so that you can understand something about this video. Again, get your politics, stop it, calm it in your system. Stop worrying about Donald Trump or the Republicans if that's not who you voted for, okay? Because that's not what this video is about, all right? It's not, okay? It's not about Republicans or Donald Trump or anything like that. It's about a policy change, all right? So what does this mean? So again, let's talk about this in real world terms, all right? So I'm gonna, directly address the ladies. So say, for instance, ladies, you have a son, okay, and you love your son. He's dating this woman, which you kind of have a few questions about, and then this woman takes advantage of him, basically misuses him or abuses him. You would not like that, correct? See, a lot of the laws in our country, they come from a quote-unquote good place. Now, I say a lot, and I didn't say all, okay, but a lot of the laws come from a good place. But the problem is with laws is that laws need to be thought about and changed, okay, pretty much as we progress as humans. Like, there's a lot of laws that are still in place that are trying to protect men and women and, minorities and different things like that from issues that they faced 50, 60 years ago. It's not so much the issues that they face of today. So, give you an example. If you go back 50 or 60 years ago, it might have been very difficult for a woman to get a job. But now when we look at labor statistics, we find out that women have jobs almost in equal number as men. And even though there is still a gender inequality when it comes to how much money women get paid, okay, women still, okay, are able to make almost as much as men. And when you even look at things like black women, for instance, going to school in record numbers and different things like that, a lot of black women are making good money. Okay? But the problem is we still have a system that is basically based off information from 50 years ago, right? And that system is no longer fair. It was basically built to protect women. But now the modern woman, not all, but some of them are misusing it. And see, like I said, I've been on both sides. I talk to both men and women, okay, on this channel. I talk to both men and women in my group, and I try to see both sides of everything. And I've told all of you, like when I was going through my divorce, I wanted to make sure my ex-wife had as much as possible. I truly did. I've always told men or encouraged men to lead like Jesus. And Jesus was self-sacrificing. Okay, he was always bending over backward for the disciples. And I truly believe that's how men should lead. But the issue comes down when a woman just wants something, or even a man wants something that they did not really deserve. I'll give you an example outside of the male scope for a while. Many of you know who the singer Britney Spears is, all right? Okay, and she made a lot of money. Okay, at one time she was the hottest pop singer. I don't think she ever made it to Taylor Swift level, but she was the hottest pop singer however many years ago, right? And she married a guy, okay? And this guy, he made a little money, but he didn't make nearly as much as Britney Spears made. So what ended up happening was when they got a divorce, he actually got alimony. And there was a lot of women that were very frustrated with him getting alimony, because there's a part of the female brain that just simply believes that a man should take care of a woman and that a woman should not have to take care of a man. It is this one-way path, right? But see, our laws don't look at it that way. Our laws look at it as, okay, well, they were married, they came together, now they split up, so now she has to support him at the level that he was used to living. And see, I would look at that and I would say that that is wrong. Okay, part of the benefit of being married to Britney Spears was to have a lifestyle like she had. Once they have decided to go their own separate ways for whatever reason, he no longer gets access to that lifestyle. And that's really what we're talking about. There is a benefit to marrying a certain person, period. But once that marriage is dissolved, that benefit should be dissolved as well. And our laws, okay, were basically set up to say, even if you go your own separate way, okay, it's okay and you still get to have this life, right? But again, that was made in a time where women couldn't really work. They couldn't get these high-powered jobs, blah, blah, blah. And like I said, with divorce, I am not here trying to say, well, women just want divorces for no reason and all this other kind of stuff. I do think a portion of them do. I do. I 100% believe that, especially like the TikTokers and a lot of this immaturity that you're seeing out here. But I do believe that a good portion of people, okay, a good portion of these women, okay, are not getting the divorce, okay, for those reasons. They're not quite that easy, of just this manipulation of a man. But no matter what the situation is, okay, a woman, once she has divorced a man, or a man has divorced a woman, I just do not believe that you still deserve the access, okay, to the lifestyle, okay, that man provided. There was a woman on Oprah Winfrey's show a long time ago. This is a long, long time ago when Oprah's show used to come on at 5 p.m., okay, in the United States. And she had the hot talk show. And there was this lady that was on the show. And the lady had dated this millionaire, it was a multimillionaire. And she would fly around and she was spending all her days literally laying out on a yacht and having the best life ever. And after 2 years, he just decided, to dump her because they were never married. He just decided to move on. And she couldn't understand it. Her parents couldn't understand it. Even his family, when she said she talked to his family, they couldn't understand it. They thought they were all going to get married and it was going to be this wonderful world, right? But he decided to let her go for whatever reason. And she was very frustrated. She was sitting out there on Oprah and she's crying. I mean, the tears are just coming down. And every woman in the audience, their heart goes out to this woman. And it wasn't just about the heartbreak. She had lost access to everything he provided. She had lost access to the ability to be able to lay out on a yacht, to be able to do whatever it is she wanted to do for the day. Now she had to get a job. And see, that's the key. That's the key to all of this. When you're dealing with the passport bros argument, okay, this is black men, their argument to black women is that they want a woman that is more traditional. They want a woman who really wants to spend most of her time with her family and her children. They want a woman who is basically saying, hey, I want to look good for my man. I want to cook for my man. I want to clean for my man. I want to, love him, respect him, lift him up. Okay, that's really what these men are saying. And they're basically saying, I'm in the dating pool of America looking for women of color, okay, that will give me that lifestyle. But the women of color are saying, we don't trust you, black men. I've done plenty of videos talking about that, where black women and sometimes Latino women and sometimes Asian women are saying, we do not trust men. We do not believe that men have our back. We do not believe they make enough money. We do not believe in all of this, so we don't want to be in that situation. So what these men are doing is saying, okay, well, if that's your purpose, if that's what you want, I'll go overseas and date. But going overseas is a little bit more difficult because you're just not around the woman that much. Okay, so you don't get to know her as intimately. And so now when these men bring these women back, just like, the gentleman said, Mr. McPherson, they're flipping the script and then they're deciding, okay, I want to go out here and really be in America where I feel like I have more opportunity and I really didn't want you anyway. Right? And see, that's really the whole passport bro issue. Right? And there are some women that don't care about the passport bros. There's some women that are very frustrated about the passport bros. And I think a lot of the passport bros that are successful, they actually have a decent amount of money. And I think that frustrates a lot of women. But again, men with money want a woman to act a certain way. They want the woman to do a certain thing. So if you're a woman and you're saying, well, I don't want to do that, how can you be mad at the passport bros? But again, I'm way off topic. Let's get back to it. The bottom line is, on this new legislation, when a person marries someone or gets in a relationship with someone, you're doing it partially for the benefit of being with said person. When you go your own way, you do not get the benefits of being in said relationship. Again, let's take this back for all the people again that they're not thinking about this, I think, through and through. Let's take this back to, hunting and gathering days. Okay. One of the main reasons why a woman would get married is for protection. In fact, she would be under the protection of her father until she gets married. And then at that point, she'd be under the protection of her husband. If she got into a situation where she did not have a husband and she was still young, people would encourage her to marry again. That's what you see in the book of Ruth. All right. Even Paul talked about it, talking about young women marrying again. Okay. To be under the protection. Okay. Why does a woman need to be protected? Well, way back in the hunting and gathering days, it wasn't just about animals, coming into the village or wherever it was that might hurt you, but it was also other men. Because it wasn't uncommon, and you actually see it in the Bible, where they would come into a town, kill all the men, and take the women as their new wives. Right? So women have to understand that was protection. It's protection against all these things. But if a woman in that environment at 30 years old is basically saying, well, you know what? It's been great. I like living in your hut or whatever, but, I don't like you. And, or we just had a disagreement because you wanted the ground that we live on in the hut to be dirt and I wanted it to be wood. So, I'm outie. Right? So as soon as, she does that, okay, now she's open to all the problems that come with it. And again, I'm not here bashing women in this video, but I'm trying to get women to understand the complexity and the frustration that a lot of men have. And really, this is not so much a video, I think, about the passport bros per se, because like I said, I have nothing against the passport bros, but it's more about the understanding, okay, of what a relationship is, and that do you really deserve, because a lot of women think they deserve this, do you really deserve a lifestyle that you have not worked for? Okay, and like I said, you can think about Britney Spears. Okay, did he deserve a lifestyle that he did not work for? Why does he get that for the rest of his life or for 5 years or whatever it is when he did not deserve it? He never worked for it. Now, I do think it's different when a woman has been a stay-at-home mom, and that was basically agreed upon by basically the husband and wife. And so now they're basically saying, okay, she's a stay-at-home mom. She doesn't have enough money. And so now the court says, okay, he needs to help her for 2 to 3 years get on her feet. Okay? I can kind of see that a little bit. But anything outside of that, I just don't see it. You don't get half. And then for, like I say, the immigrants coming in, you don't become a United States citizen. That was the benefit of being married to the man. See, there's benefits to this. I remember, and this is how I'm going to end this, I remember Martin Lawrence had a stand-up where he talked about it. And he talked about how, he would date women and, they would come and they would see his big house and stuff. And they'd be like, wow, you have this big house. You got this, you got that. And then he said he would end up in an argument with them. And so all of a sudden the woman would get upset. And she's like, I'm leaving you. I don't want you, blah, 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 blah. And he would be like, okay. And he'd walk him to the door. And he would open the door and say, okay. And he would say 5 minutes later, they're like looking around at all his big stuff and his nice cars and all this kind of stuff. And then she'd be like, why you tripping? Why you acting like that? Why can't we work this out? Because access to the stuff means access to the man. Without the man, you don't get the stuff. Okay? That's how that works. Same thing for, like I say, for Britney Spears. She has the money. And even like I talk about it with my celebrity, baby mama, her. If me and her got married, I don't deserve her stuff. Like I say, she's probably worth 25, 30, 50, $100 million. I don't know. But if me and her dated and we got married, okay, and then we got a divorce, I need to go back to where I was doing before. Now, maybe she, like I said, could help me for 1 year get back on my feet. Okay, because if I had basically given up a job or a situation like that, I could see it for like a year, but not a year her paying me $40,000 a month. It'd be more like, okay, you was making, XYZ, we're going to say 100,000, just make it nice and clean. So, if she knew that that's what I was making beforehand, okay, give me the equivalent for 1 year. Okay, so I can get back on my feet, find a new job, blah, blah, blah. But that is the most is what I deserve. Okay, I don't deserve anything else. And I think we've got to get out of this mindset that we deserve with all this entitlement. Okay, instead, stay humble. Okay, it's one of the problems with people, period, is that we're not being humble enough. Anywho, remember every other Thursday we do Thursday Talks. So please come out and be a part of that. We love for you to come out and be a part of the Zoom because we do talk, and that is live out here on YouTube. All right. So anyway, please like, please subscribe, and I'm going to see you all in the very next video.